Chelsea edged past Man City with a 2-1 victory at Pride Park to lift the League Cup. It obviously marks their first bit of silverware under Sonny B, and it finally ends their 3-year losing streak in League Cup finals. Rachel, what was your take on Chelsea?
I actually think the match delivered. I thought it was a better match than when they played each other at Stamford Bridge. My only disappointment was that it was won with an own goal, right? If Chelsea had won it because Kat Macario or Mera or someone had, absolutely, Aaron had buried it in the top corner, fine. But it's one of those where you're like, it was an own goal, and Yui as well, of all people. So
I know, she's so nice to have that happen to.
I was really impressed, actually. I think Man City did better than expected, although I had thought maybe they might win it. Got the score right, but the wrong way around. And I actually think afterwards, either of them could have won it, and it wouldn't have been seen as a controversial or robbed or anything like that. I thought both teams played well. I thought City played better. They grew into it. I thought, Chelsea started better, got the early goal. I thought City really grew into the game. I was so impressed with Chelsea defensively. They were so switched on. They were City very good in possession, Chelsea very good out of possession, which was, similar to how they lined up last time. They were very good out of possession when they played at Stamford Bridge. But I was just so impressed with the way Chelsea, when a player goes or if they miss a tackle, there's always someone there. There's always someone there stepping into the gap. And I was so impressed with that. There was a moment where Bunny Shaw, I think, turned Millie Bright, left her for dust, had a shot. Suddenly, Sandy Baltimore, out of nowhere, came sliding in to block it. There was a moment where Lauren James nicked the ball, took off across her own box, never mind passing out, took off across her own box to the left side of the pitch. Suddenly she was passing it up to Lucy Bronze, who was up the left side. I was like, what are you doing over there? The way that they shift around for each other and then get back into their positions was really impressive. I think at times City, maybe players that you expect to not do this, to not overthink at times, to not take the extra touch, were doing that a little bit. Bunny Shaw was guilty of it. Viv Miedema was guilty of it at times, and that could just be the occasion. They know the pressure's on them. They know it's going to be a tough game. They know they're the players people are looking to. So there were times where they just in the box might take one extra touch. But you know what? It delivered. I felt like it was two top teams absolutely going for it. And I think they can both be proud of the performance.
100%. I think, for the first 10 or 15 minutes, I felt that there was a shakiness to City, though. I think there was a couple of sort of stray passes that were going directly into the field of Chelsea players nearby, and everyone looked just a little bit unsettled. I don't think that was particularly helped well by the pitch, which we will definitely get onto in a second. But yeah, I did feel like from the outset, Chelsea, I think, had that tiny edge, but I would say it felt very finely and evenly balanced. And I've got to agree, some of the defending, the emergency defending, that, the moment you were talking about there with Sandy Baltimore, I thought was absolutely unreal. She's such a spicy little character. I feel like she's kind of grown into herself a little bit more. But defensively, I thought they were solid. One of the big players, I think, who 100% deserves absolutely credit and praise being heaped on her, Millie Bright. Got a question in from listener Neil on Instagram. He said, do you think Millie Bright has been the best defender in the WSL this season? I wouldn't say she's the absolute best defender of there are so many. I think there are a number of really good defenders in the league. I definitely think I've seen for the past 2 seasons Millie Bright step up. There's definitely been a few games, especially recently, where I felt like Millie Bright's had her head on everything, has slid in for everything, has the communication from her, the way that she marshals the defence, I think has been absolutely top. The leadership that she's shown, 100%. And I feel like maybe that's been the step up since kind of managing or taking the captaincy at the Women's World Cup. I felt there was a step up there in how I saw Millie Bright kind of lead teams from the back. But Rach, what do you think?
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think as well, after Magdalena Eriksson left and she stepped up into captaincy role. But I also think a lot of it is down to her partnership with Natalie Bjorn. And I think Natalie Bjorn is another one that kind of flies under the radar a little bit. And I thought both of them played very, very well together as a duo. And I think, you can almost, when one of them has a really good game, you're pretty sure the other one's going to have a good game too. I think they've played really well together. But yeah, I thought Millie had a very good game. Agree, maybe not the absolute best of everyone this season. I think Chelsea have had games that have been a bit up and down, and the difference with them is that they win them. They find a way to win it. But absolutely, in that game, she was excellent. Both of them were. And yeah, I think that was probably almost like Chelsea's defence won it for me. I just thought they were so crucial in blocking the opportunities that City were creating. And City did create, like they were knocking on the door, but they struggled to get too many on target, and that was really down to Chelsea's defending.
100%, and I think not only just the defending, and that includes also Hannah Hampton, who I think put in an absolute shift. Some of the staves that she made and how quickly she was so quick to kind of read the danger and step out, I think absolutely credit to her. But let's touch on the quality of the pitch. We cannot ignore it. It was a bit of a shit show, to be honest. It was bad. Erin Cuthbert said it wasn't fit for a final, and so did Sonia Bompasto, who said, I'm not sure if it was a men's final, it would be the same. Really rate Rachel Brown-Finnis kind of calling it out in comms early doors and kind of saying this is just not acceptable at all. It wasn't good enough. I think it was already a push to try and get spectators to Derby to watch the game in the first place. I think was it 13 or 14,000 people
14,
they had?
Yeah.
14,000 people at the game. And then for those people who may or may not be new to the game, who may be coming to one of the games for the first time, to then have a final, not just at any other game, but a final being played on a pitch that was completely substandard. There were patches of the grass there were no patches of grass in some areas. It was and also it made it really unsafe. There was a couple of incidences there. It was Erin Cuthbert obviously went down with a kind of head. It looked like she kind of knocked her head or got some kind of whiplash from kind of falling awkwardly. And you think that could have been so much more serious.
A nice kind of stadium in terms of from a spectator position. That area of the stadium seemed nice. And actually, I think I didn't realise just how bad the pitch was until I was on it or until I saw highlights, because when you look at it from above, when you look at it from the side, you can kind of see bits of green. But as soon as you look down on it, you realise, Jesus, there's more. It's 80% mud, and then there's little shoots of grass trying to get through. It was
How did it feel when you were on it? Did it feel soft or did it feel hard?
Yeah, it was a bit soft. It was, I was more concerned about dirty in my shoes because it was that kind of clunky. Do you know that? I know that's a stupid thing to say, but it's the kind of things you're thinking about. Normally you're walking on, I'd just come from the Everton game on the Friday where I'd been walking across the entire pitch, and that one's like a carpet. And then you look at this and you're it's actually a struggle to find grass, and there was a shot of them taking a corner and you're like, how is this a pitch that's been looked at and thought acceptable to put a final on? It's annoying. There's lots of eyes on it, more eyes on it than many games. Even not the same as the pitch, but even the press room was really small for the number of media coming to cover the game. It was quite difficult. And then once the press conference was on, the press room was essentially locked to anyone wanting to come in and out. So you then couldn't get in and out and do any work or any, editing because everything was in one small room. So just generally, maybe not the place it should have been, but the main thing, safety of the players, that pitch is not acceptable.
100%. I hope they kind of reflect back and review on that and sort of choose a location next time that is more appropriate, because it was embarrassing, absolutely embarrassing. Let's turn our attentions then to Nick Cushing. Had 4 days. I know we said we felt sorry for him, in the last pod that we just did. Coming in, obviously a bit of a shock move, Gareth Taylor exiting, and then Nick Cushing, who's obviously been with the side in previous years, come back into the fold. 4 days to kind of get them all prepped for the biggest bit of silverware they've had in quite some time. I mean, Rach, did you feel like there was anything that you saw in City that was different from the week previously? Did you think that things had massively changed? Because I didn't, if I'm honest.
Hugely.
But that's not his fault. I'm not sitting here saying that's a criticism of mine. That's just I didn't see anything massively different.
Not hugely different, but I did think they played better than the last time they played Chelsea. So that's an improvement. I think a lot of pressure, maybe the players would have felt a lot of pressure because they know they haven't had this new manager in for very long and they needed to kind of change, improve things. They still looked shaky in defence. But I was quite impressed with just his post-match and the way he reflected on it, the way he spoke about his players. I really liked. He was really positive. He was really proud of the way they performed. That kind of narrative. He said, he's going to be the one that has to take the responsibility of turning this loss into motivation. He said, if losing a cup final is enough motivation for you, I don't know what is. I liked the way he reflected on it. And I think the way they performed, he can absolutely, like, it is something he can be proud of. What I thought was interesting were, I felt like the substitutions shifted it for Chelsea. And Sonia Bonpastor brought on the likes of Aggie Beaver-Jones kind of in the 75th minute, I think. She made a double substitution with Micah Hamano and Aggie Beaver-Jones, a real trust in her youngsters to come on and make a difference in the 74th minute. And I do think that kind of helped City. It felt like City had been on top since their goal. And I do think that helped to shift momentum. But then conversely, the substitutions made for Manchester City kind of came in the 81st minute with Carolyn and Jess Park coming on for Shaw and Fagino. And arguably Shaw and Fagino were the best players on the pitch for Manchester City. I think maybe Shaw might have picked up a knock. I'm not 100% sure. It could have been that. But you're looking at that and thinking you've 9 minutes left. The players most likely to get you goals, I felt, at the time, were those two. So I feel like for me, it was those substitutions that maybe swung the momentum back into Chelsea's favour. But look, I just think it makes the next three exciting because, like I said, looking at that performance, either of them could have deservedly won it.
Well, I think, like you said, Rach, I mean, this is the first instalment of 4 games in a row between Chelsea and Man City over the next 12 days. What a treat. What a Groundhog Day treat for everybody. They play each other in the first leg of their Champions League quarter-final on Wednesday. Do you think that the way this final played out, this will impact their next game with Chelsea and Man City? Do you think there's going to be like a big switch up of tactics? Do we think we're going to see a completely different game every time these guys play, or do we think actually it's going to be pretty similar to what we've just seen?
I think relatively similar because it felt close. Like, I asked Nick Cushing this in the pre-match press conference. You know, I was like, all the talk around this fixture has been how difficult it is for the players knowing they have to play each other 4 times in the next 12 days and how you prepare for that. But I was like, for you as a new manager, you've come in, you've got 3-4 days prep for this. You only have one team to prep for, realistically, in the next 2 weeks. You're getting your feet wet in 3 competitions within 12 days. Like, you're thrown in the deep end, but it almost gives him more time to spend getting to know his players, because he's not going, now I have to think about Bayern Munich. Now I have to think about, Manchester United. He's just Chelsea. I know he knows what Chelsea is. His team are going to tell him all about Chelsea. And he can actually, I feel like maybe that means, and I asked him that, could you just then spend a little bit more time getting to know your players and working on your tactics? And I think that's quite a unique situation for a new manager, is to say, actually, all I need to think about for the next 12 days is Chelsea. So I don't think there's going to be like loads of changes. I still think City are going to have more possession. I think Chelsea are going to be happy to let them do that. It's just about being clinical in those moments and those decision-making moments for City when they do create those chances, not hesitating, being a bit more confident in front of goal. And it does, like I said, it makes it hard to call how that's going to go.
Well, I think even though it's going to be Chelsea that he focuses on, one of the big things, a big factor that's going to be playing a part now in these future games, Sam Kerr has been named in the Chelsea squad for the Champions League knockouts. Obviously, I think this will be a very welcome addition to the squad for Sonia, and also a really welcome addition to see her back in the squad for the fans as well. Obviously, she'll be taking things probably quite easily as she sort of gets back from everything that's sort of been going on and off the pitch, to be fair to her. Do you think that's kind of gonna, if you see the Sam Kerr warming up, it's gonna impact some kind of change.
I would honestly be surprised if we saw her in these next 3 games, if I'm totally honest. I feel like
don't say that, Rach. I know you're being realistic. But it's just, I wanted some drama. I want to create some drama with that.
It's a weapon, isn't it? And maybe come the 3rd or 4th game, they can pull out an ace card and it's Sam Kerr. And I heard people saying, like at the League Cup final, like, I saw Lauren Hemp got off the bus in a tracksuit like everybody else. What does that mean? And I was a bit like, well, I'd be very surprised if suddenly Lauren Hemp came along. But like those kind of, I guess, are little things as well that you can just have in the back of your mind where you're like, she probably won't, but maybe she will. And then it's something you have to prepare for. But on the realistic side of things, I'd be very surprised if she featured in the next 3 games. I think they've put her on that list with the goal of going further in the competition and having her available for that. But yeah, it's like anything that gives you an edge. Like, I think it's interesting that City, the next game is away now at City. So, and I'm right in thinking, like, basically it's a neutral ground, City ground, Chelsea ground, City ground. So
Yes.
just like how does that kind of, those little bits, those little kind of small things, those 1%, make a difference when you're playing the same team over and over? I don't know, like you're the player. Have you had that where you've had to face the same team very close together?
I actually haven't. There's never been a situation where I've had to face the same team 4 times.
Well,
in
not
a row.
4 times, but even twice.
I think we've definitely had like back-to-back games. I think there's been a few like where there's been fixtures that have like been pushed together or cancelled for weather reasons or whatever it is. But I do remember that we had a Durham away and then a Durham home game. And I think we had the same thing happen. It was a flip-flop. It was like we lost at Durham away, and fair enough, like the travel alone kind of kills you, and then won Durham at home, and we couldn't quite figure out, like, not that much had kind of happened, but
it's that cliche of like the team that loses learns the most, right?
But I'm not a fan of playing back-to-back fixtures. I think there should be that variation. I think like other teams should get a chance to kind of go away and kind of like focus on another team and come back to it. I think it became, otherwise 4 times in a row is that's fucking madness. That's just stupid.
I was sat next to the Chelsea photographer in the second half, and I said to her, I was like, this is just you now for the next 12 days, same team. I said, you can nearly call in sick and be like, oh no, these are the photos, I took them, I swear. No,
oh my God, that's such a good shout.
There's Myra, I'm telling you, these are from the game. I don't know what you're talking about.
4 in 1 fee, absolutely rate that.